Hello, I'm Mary Beth Jacobs, and today I'm going to show you how to make a knit stitch. I'm working with worsted weight yarn and a needle that's appropriately sized for that yarn. If you're here, you might be new to knitting, which welcome. You might have been a knitter before, maybe left it and need a refresher, or you might be having a problem. So we're going to be going through not just how to make a knit stitch, but also some of the things that will help to train your eyes so that if you do have any kind of issue, that you will be able to figure this out. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my camera. And here I have a cast on, a long tail cast on. I made this already. I have another video if you need to see how to make a long tail cast on. I'm not going to go over that here, but I do have it already made. I'll draw your attention to a few things to start putting really good mental images into your knitting brain. I started here with my slip stitch, my slip knot, and I made my long tail cast on. And if you notice, I work from right to left. And that is the direction in which I will be knitting. I'll always be knitting from right to left. There are some exceptions to that, but we won't be going over that. And most knitters won't ever encounter situations where they're working in the opposite direction. So for most people, when you knit, you will be knitting always from right to left. You'll notice at the end of my cast on, I have this piece of yarn toward the front, which is my tail. And then I have this other piece of yarn toward the back, which is connected to the ball or the working yarn. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like after I've been done making my cast on. Now I have to turn my work. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it. And so now what happens is my working yarn, the one connected to the ball, is toward the front, and my yarn tail is toward the back. And again, everything is on the right-hand side, and I'll be working from right to left. So I'm all set up to get going. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my right-hand needle, and I'm going to insert it into the first stitch. Okay. And before I do that, let's take a look at this stitch. It starts down here at the right, and it travels over and back to the left. Okay, so this stitch is properly hitched onto the needle. It's not backward, it's not twisted. Okay, so in general, you will always have your stitches go from the bottom right over the top to the back left. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do this. First of all, holding the working yarn in my right hand. This is called throwing or English knitting. And then I'll switch it halfway through and I'll show you how to hold your working yarn in the left hand. Okay, so here I go, and I'm going to stick my right hand needle into the stitch like so. And I'm going from front to back behind the left needle. And then I'm going to take my working yarn and I'm going to bring it around the back through the front, and then I'm going to pull it through. And then I'm going to take that left-hand needle, that stitch off of the left-hand needle. So I'll do this again. I'm going to enter from front to back under that right-hand leg. I'm going to take my working yarn and I'm going to wrap it around and back, and I'm going to pull it through. Let's do this again. I'm going to enter from front to back. My working yarn is going to come around, and I'm going to pull through, and I'm going to drop that stitch off the left-hand needle. Again, I'm going to enter, take my right hand needle, enter from front to back in that front leg. I'm going to take my working yarn around and I'm going to pull through. And then I'm going to drop that old stitch off of my left hand needle. And one more time, I'm going to enter from front to back, take my working yarn, bring it around the right hand needle. I'm going to pull through. Okay. Now I'm going to show you what would happen if I take my working yarn and put it into my left hand. This is called Continental or picking. So it's the same thing, it's just the yarn is held in this hand, okay? So I'm gonna first, again, enter, take my right hand needle and enter from front to back. And because of the way I'm holding my yarn, I don't have to do that big swooping motion. My yarn's already there. So I just pull it through. And then I'm going to pull that old stitch off. Okay. So I'm going to enter from front to back, grab my yarn, and pull it through. This is the exact same motion as the first method I showed you. It's just that my yarn's already there. So I'm going to enter from front to back, grab my yarn, and pull through. And last, two more times. Front to back, grab my yarn, and pull through. Front to back. Oops, grab my yarn and pull through. Okay. So here I've done a whole row of knit stitches. Okay. Now, if I turn my work and do more knit stitches, I'm going to have garter stitch. So let's try that. So I'm going to go back for the first few stitches to showing you how to do this knit stitch with my right hand. So I'm going to enter from front to back. And I'm going to pull my yarn around, pull through, and drop the old stitch off. Front to back. Pull my yarn around, pull through, and drop the old stitch. Enter from front to back. So you see here how I do this. And I showed you with the left hand, my yarn was already over here. So I had already completed the swoop part just by the way I had my yarn held when I was holding in the other hand. Okay, and then I'll switch which hand I use for holding my working yarn. And I'll put it on my left hand. Okay. Same exact knit stitch, but now, so you remember when I had my yarn in this hand, I had to swoop it around and I got it to this point and then I pulled it through, right? So I'm already halfway there when I do it Continental. Front to back, my yarn's already halfway there, so I just grab it and pull it through. Enter from front to back. My yarn's halfway there, so I just grab it and pull it through. Okay. So you can see there's a little bit more economy of motion here. Both are good though. I would recommend that you take the time to learn both how to hold your working yarn in your right hand and in your left hand. because when you want to do other things, like if you ever want to do color work, it's good to know how to do both. If you ever have an injury, it's good to know how to do both so you can continue working. If your hands get tired, it's good to know both so that you can switch it up. All right, so here I've finished my row and you can see here's my working yarn. So again, I'm going to turn my work and I'll do the first 5 stitches again with my yarn tensioned in my right hand, English or throwing. So I'm going to enter from front to back. And I'm going to go around. And so you see here when I do this, this is where I'm starting when I have my working yarn tensioned in my left hand. But because I have it in my right hand, I have it all the way over here. I'm going to bring it all the way around and wrap it and pull it through. And again, from front to back. And if you notice, after I'm done making my knit stitch, my working yarn is toward the back of the needle. Okay, that's important to notice because when you learn to do a purl, it's going to be a little different. So after I'm done making a knit stitch, my working yarn is to the back of the needle. So I'm going to pull it through, and you see how my working yarn's to the back. And again, I'm going to enter from front to back into that front leg, around, and pull through. Front to back, around, and pull through. If you notice when I'm doing this, I have good tension. So what that means is, if you look at my stitches, the yarn, there's not a lot of extra slack, the stitches that are on my needle, but they're also not pulled so tight that it's like deathly tight, right? So you see, I'm pulling it too tight right now, and you can see it. The yarn gets real narrow and it flattens down, and that's not what happens when they're properly tensioned. It looks like just regular yarn that's on there without extra slack, and that comes with time, okay? So let me switch my working yarn to my left hand, and you can maybe start to see it already, that when I have my yarn tension with my left hand, it's already halfway through. That first swooping motion is halfway done. Okay, so I'm going to enter from front to back, and I'm going to pull the yarn through, catch it and pull it through, and drop that old stitch off. Front to back, catch the yarn, pull it through, and drop the old stitch off the back. And again. Okay. So if I were to put this down, and if I were to put this down and then pick it up, oh my goodness, which way do I start? I mean, I remember when I was first starting, that would be a concern. What do I do now? Because I'm not entirely sure where I'm at. And you always want to remember you're working from right to left. Well, I can't work from right to left here because my yarn isn't set up to work from right to left. It's over here. So I'd have to turn my work so that my working yarn is set up to go from right to left. This fabric here is called garter stitch because it's knit on every row. And this is the first fabric that a lot of knitters learn because you're getting used to doing this knit stitch, okay? I want to show you, I have set up another set of yarn for stockinette stitch. And this is made of knit stitches on the right side and then purl stitches on the wrong side. So there'll be a different video to show you how to make a purl stitch, but I'm going to just show you how to work your knit stitches in this stockinette. And it's basically the exact same way as it was in the garter stitch. Again, notice here, I have my working yarn to the right, and I'm set up to work from right to left, and my stitches are hitched such that they start here at the bottom right, travel over to the left. So let me, whoops, I guess I'll do the, I forget I'm doing it this way. So I'll enter in from front to back, swoop my yarn around, pull through, and then drop that old stitch off the back. Front to back, swoop around, drop that old stitch off the back. Let me do something here so you can see, because we keep talking about how it's hitched from front right over the top to the back. Let me twist it so you can see what it looks like if I get this wrong. Okay, so here I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it on the needle the wrong way. Okay, so can you see how that's different? The right leg is not to the front. It's now behind the needle. And the left leg of the stitch is to the front. Okay, so this is twisted. If I work into this leg here, I'm going to twist this stitch. So let me show you what that looks like, because this is, you don't want to do this unless you mean to, but for most people, this is going to be a mistake. So you see how this is twisted? It's not nice and open. This is nice and open, and this is twisted. Okay. So let me undo that. And again, let's put it on the stitch on the needle in the right orientation. So this right hand leg should travel from bottom right over the top to the left. Okay. So let me enter from front to back, around, and drop off. Another thing that will happen a lot of times for knitters is they'll accidentally take the working yarn and make something that we call a yarn over. So if you remember, I told you that your working yarn is off to the back after you make your knit stitch. Well, sometimes if you put your work down or, you know, something happens, it's easy to accidentally take it and wrap the working yarn over the top of the needle. And it looks like a stitch. And then if I make a stitch in between, I have this yarn here. You can kind of see what happens. If I were to work in this on the next row, I'm going to have a hole there or a yarn over. It's not a properly made yarn over, but it is a yarn over. Another thing that'll happen is yarn will get, instead of being to the back, the yarn might be accidentally pulled under the needle, and then it's in front. And then when the stitch is made, it again makes this loop over the top, but there's no stitch there. You've increased a stitch, you made a yarn over, and that'll make a hole in the knitting, okay? So when you're doing your knit stitches, especially as a beginner, you want to make sure that you always have that working yarn off the back of the stitch and that you don't bring it over the needle, over the top of the needle when you're making your next stitch. Unless you are in a lace pattern and it's written into the pattern, but that's a different thing. Okay, this is what I'm talking about is if you accidentally do it. And I know as a new knitter, that is often something that unintentionally happens. You get lost and you don't realize that your yarn was supposed to be off the back of the stitch, and it's easy to accidentally put the yarn over the top. and make that extra stitch or that yarn over. So let me switch hands and we'll do some Continental. And again, let me change the orientation so you can see how this is all really nice and open. Everything is open. And then let me twist this stitch. So let me take it off and put it on in the wrong orientation so you can see how instead of that front leg, that right leg being in the front and then it going over to the left, I have it in the opposite way where it's in the back and then it's coming over in the opposite direction. And you can see here, if you look carefully, this one here, this was properly hitched. It's going from bottom right over the top to the back left. It looks like it's slanting almost like a diagonal this way, whereas this one going the incorrect way looks like it's almost slanting in the opposite direction. So you can kind of see, I open these up a little bit more so you can see what it looks like when it's not hitched correctly. So let me fix that and put it on in the right orientation. Okay, so if you ever see a stitch and it looks funky, it might be twisted. And you can just do like I did there, where you put it on the needle the correct way. Okay, and again, I want to make sure that I don't accidentally do this number. Whoa, no, I don't want to do that because now I'm making a hole. I'm making an extra stitch, a yarn over. I don't want to do that. I'm trying to just knit, not do stuff like this. Okay, you see how that would make an extra stitch and a big giant hole. So let me start front to back on that right leg. I'm going to catch my yarn, pull the old stitch off. From front to back, catch my yarn, pull the old stitch off. And you see here how the stitch I just made, it's nice and open, not twisted at the base. If they're twisted at the base, whoops, sorry. What happens is that this leg here would cross over. So let me show you what a twisted stitch looks like. We change the orientation. And say I accidentally get confused and I just go ahead and knit into that left leg. Let's see if you can see the difference here. This one's nice and open. Can you see how it looks almost like two parallel lines right here? And then this one, you can see it looks like a little X. Open and a little X. That is a twisted stitch. And unless I absolutely mean to do that, I don't want to do that because that is going to stand out. So I'm going to undo that and I'm going to fix this by putting it on the needle the right way. The right leg is starting from the bottom right over the top to the left. Now let's try it. See what we get. Oh yeah, nice and open. Almost looks like two parallel legs. See how it's nice and open like that? Okay. Front to back. And here we go. That's my stockinette stitch. And then again, this was when I knit every row and I made this garter stitch. There'll be another video showing how to do purl stitches, but hopefully this will get you started on working your knit stitches with success.